The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome. You're watching News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. Let's get you all the top national and international stories that we're tracking at this hour. The war between Israel and Hamas has now entered its 49th day. Let's get you all the updates. The most important update today, of course, is that the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has come into effect. The first group of hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza are expected to be released around 7:30 p.m. India time. The first batch will include 13 women and children. And this truce that has been agreed upon between the two sides is expected to last for 4 days. It is during this 4-day period that 50 hostages will be released in a staggered manner. Now, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 14,500 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza in the ongoing war, and 6,000 of the victims were children. As we said, a 4-day truce in the Israel-Hamas conflict has finally taken effect. Some of the hostages held in the Gaza Strip are said to be released later in the day in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. In the deal struck between Israel and Hamas, brokered by Qatar, Egypt and the United States, it is expected that 50 Israeli hostages will be released in exchange for a 4-day pause in hostilities and the release of 150 Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails. In the first batch, 13 women and children who are being held hostages will be released later today. The truce agreement brought the first pause in a 7-week-old war that has killed thousands of people. Both sides have agreed to resume the fighting after this temporary truce that is going to last 4 days as per the agreement. These will be complicated days and nothing is certain. Even during this process, there could be changes. Control over northern Gaza is the first step of a long war, and we are preparing for the next stages. That is what the Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari has said. Now, before the ceasefire came into effect, Israel actually stepped up its attack on Gaza. Israeli jets hit over 300 targets and the troops engaged in fighting around the Jabalia refugee camp in North Gaza. Hamas is believed to have taken at least 240 people, most of them Israeli hostages, during the 7th October deadly assault on Israeli territory. Thirteen hostages, primarily women and children, are said to be released from Gaza today in the first batch during a 4-day truce brokered primarily by Qatar. The ceasefire covers North and South Gaza, with Egypt facilitating aid and Israel also agreeing to release Palestinian prisoners. The hope is to establish a lasting truce amid the deadly conflict.
13 Israeli women and children are expected to be freed from Gaza on Friday as part of a 4-day ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel. Qatar, which helped broker the agreement, said they would be the first batch of hostages released. Here's Foreign Ministry spokesman Majed Al-Ansari.
They will be 13 in number, all women and children, and those hostages who are from the same families will be put together within the same patch. Obviously, every day will include a number of civilians, as agreed, to total 50 within the 4 days.
The first pause in 7 weeks of war involves a comprehensive ceasefire in North and South Gaza, though fighting raged on in the hours leading up to it. According to Egypt, which also served as a mediator in the deal, 200 aid trucks will be allowed into the Hamas-ruled enclave daily, along with deliveries of gas and diesel. Israel is expected to release 150 Palestinian women and minors in jail there during the ceasefire, and has said it would extend the truce by 1 day for every extra 10 captives freed from Gaza.
Our aim is for this deal to end with a lasting truce.
Meanwhile, Qatar says it hopes the 4 days of exchanges will buy the two sides time to figure out a lasting truce to put an end to the deadly violence.
Israel withdrew numerous armored vehicles, including tanks, from the Gaza Strip in a convoy on Friday. This happened during a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, marking the first break in a 48-day conflict that has caused significant damage in the Palestinian territory. There were no major reports of bombings, artillery strikes or rocket attacks during the ceasefire period. An Israeli army video released on Thursday shows the Israeli military chief of staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, speaking to commanders in Gaza and saying fighting will continue until we are victorious. Both Israel and Hamas say they will go back to fighting once this truce is over.
אנחנו מנסים לחבר בין מטרות המלחמה, שהלחץ בתמרון הוא זה שיביא את היכולת להשיג גם את מטרת המלחמה הזו, לייצר את התנאים לשחרור החטופים. אנחנו לא מסיימים את המלחמה. אנחנו ממשיכים עד הניצחון, והולכים קדימה וממשיכים באזורים אחרים של חמאס.
The Israeli army showed news agencies a reinforced tunnel beside the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza, complete with a bathroom, kitchen and an air-conditioned meeting room, which it says had served as a command post for the Hamas fighters. The tunnel shaft, some 2 meters high, was accessed through an outdoor shaft in the hospital complex grounds, which were once crowded with tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians. The army says this served as a human shield from the war for Hamas. Residents of Rafah have said several people were killed in an Israeli airstrike a day before the truce came into effect. The airstrike targeted the Uveda family building in eastern Rafah, according to eyewitnesses, leading some to be skeptical about the effectiveness of this proposed ceasefire. The war, of course, has raged on in Gaza for 7 weeks now, including on Thursday before the ceasefire kicked in today. Columns of smoke from blasts rose from northern Gaza on Thursday, seen from southern Israel. Israel said the release of hostages meant to be accompanied by the war's first ceasefire would be delayed until Friday, but thankfully it has come into effect finally today. Israeli forces continued their operations in the West Bank city of Nablus. One Palestinian was killed by the Israeli army gunfire during the raid in the Balata camp in the city. Residents said the Israeli forces stormed the camp overnight with dozens of military vehicles, and that clashes were taking place in the camp between a number of Palestinian gunmen and the army. The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, has said Gaza Strip is the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell told the UN Security Council that more than 5,300 Palestinian children have been killed since the war began on the 7th of October in Gaza. Hamas terrorists, remember, attacked Israel on the 7th of October, killing 1,200 people and taking 240 people hostage. Following which, the Israeli Defense Forces launched an invasion of Gaza. Injured children were taken to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis while the war continued in the Gaza Strip before today's ceasefire. According to the Palestinian media, at least 15 people were killed in these airstrikes on Khan Yunis. On Wednesday, Israel agreed to a ceasefire with Hamas for 4 days to let in humanitarian aid and release of 50 hostages that are currently being held by the Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Israel too has agreed to return 150 Palestinians who are currently in Israeli jails. On Thursday, the Israeli army released more videos claiming that it had carried out strikes on fresh Hamas targets. The Israeli military said it had launched 300 airstrikes and sounded sirens warning of cross-border rocket launches by Hamas. Israeli strikes were reported in the northern areas as well as the southern city of Khan Yunis, where Israel has asked residents from the north to seek shelter. Israel has shared a video alleging a Hamas tunnel entrance beneath a civilian's home situated on a street which it claims runs parallel to the Al-Shifa hospital. The footage shows Israel's military spokesperson Daniel Hagari inspecting the damaged house where Israeli troops say they found the entrance to the tunnel. Take a look. Palestinians surged through rubble in Rafah after the Israeli strikes. The city is located along the southern Gazan border with Egypt and has come under several attacks. Water, fuel and medical supplies are running out across the region. Despite a truce that has come into effect today and the agreement on the release of hostages, rescuers and locals work to find anyone trapped under the damaged buildings. German authorities searched 15 properties in connection with a recent ban on the activities of Hamas as well as pro-Palestinian groups. Semi-down, the German Interior Ministry has said in a statement the searches in 4 German states are intended to enforce the ban and clear up illegal structures of Hamas designated as a terror organization. According to the ministry, there are 450 members of Hamas in Germany whose activities range from support and propaganda to financing and collection of donations.
Wir stehen nicht nur solidarisch an der Seite Israels und der jüdischen Menschen auf der ganzen Welt und vor allen Dingen natürlich in Deutschland, sondern wir handeln auch, und das zeigen die neuerlichen Maßnahmen heute, die Exekutivmaßnahmen, die wir infolge der Verbote von Hamas und Samidun vollzogen haben.
The newly appointed British Foreign Secretary David Cameron on Thursday visited the site of an Israeli kibbutz which was targeted during the deadly attack by Hamas on the 7th of October when 1,200 people were killed in southern Israel. Cameron was showed a number of destroyed rooms in the kibbutz Be'eri along with visiting one of the scenes of the 7th October attacks. During the visit to the region, Cameron is also expected to meet with Israeli and Palestinian leaders.
I've heard things and seen things that obviously I will never forget, and it's important we understand that. Today is also a day where we hope to see this humanitarian pause. I think that's important because it's an opportunity to get hostages out and to get aid in, and I hope and would urge everyone who's involved in that agreement to make sure that it happens.
Drone footage captured people in the streets of Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, as a 4-day ceasefire commenced between Israel and Hamas in the Palestinian enclave. The footage displayed Gazans walking past damaged and destroyed buildings, with some beginning to return to their homes. The truce came into effect at 7 a.m. local time today, and it involves a comprehensive ceasefire in both northern and southern Gaza, the release of 13 Israeli women and child hostages later today, and the facilitation of humanitarian aid into the besieged territory. Plumes of smoke hung over Gaza, and Israeli armored vehicles could be seen moving away from the Gaza Strip in a column on Friday morning after the truce between Israel and Hamas began. There were no major reports of bombings, artillery strikes or rocket attacks as Israel and Hamas commenced a 4-day pause in the fighting. The first pause in a 48-day-old war that has devastated Gaza. Let's now get you the latest on the tunnel rescue operations in Uttarkashi in Uttarakhand. Operations to bring out 41 workers now seem to be in the last phase, though it was stalled on Thursday night when the drilling machine stopped. Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami stayed on site all night to oversee the operation. The drilling is set to resume shortly. 41 ambulances have been kept on standby at the Silkyara tunnel site to move the workers to hospital as soon as they come out of that tunnel. International tunnel expert Arnold Dix says the auger machine encountered a hard substance making drilling difficult last night. He says the workers are barely 6 meters away. However, officials remain optimistic, saying there may not be much of a delay now. The National Disaster Management Authority expects the workers to be rescued by the end of the day. Meanwhile, an expert committee has been formed to investigate the tunnel collapse.
नहीं, अभी सिचुएशन काफ़ी ठीक है, क्योंकि रात में हमें 2 हिस्सों पे काम करना था। एक तो जो मशीन का प्लेटफॉर्म उसको पुख्ता करना था, रिवैम्प करना था, वो आराम से हमने रिवैम्प कर दिया और रिवैम्प करने के बाद फिर मशीन चला करके ऑगर को निकाल दिया और पाइप के मुंह पर जहाँ पर थोड़ा सा कहीं पे दबाव था, उसको दबाव को हटाने के लिए पाइप को काटने का काम अभी चल रहा है और मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ अगले घंटे में वो काम हमारा कंप्लीट हो जाना चाहिए। वो कंप्लीट हो जाने के बाद फिर हम जो हमारी नॉर्मल प्रक्रिया है ऑगर ड्रिलिंग की, उसके लिए अपनी तैयारी करेंगे। मशीन में ऑगर भेजेंगे, वेल्ड करेंगे नया हिस्सा और फिर जोड़ करके नई ड्रिलिंग शुरू करेंगे। उसमें हमारे लिए एक बहुत बड़ा पॉजिटिव है, जैसे मैं कह रहा था पहले कुछ साथियों से आपके, कि पार्सन्स कंपनी ने ग्राउंड पेनिट्रेशन रडार से जो स्टडी की है उसमें हमने ये पाया है कि अगले 5 मीटर तक 45 के बियॉन्ड कोई मेटेलिक ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन नहीं है। इसका मतलब साफ है कि हमारी जो ड्रिलिंग है वो स्मूथ होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि जो मैं कह रहा था जब हम पुराना मलबा निकाल रहे थे उसमें हमें 2 मैंगल्ड पाइप्स, बिल्कुल ही घूमे हुए मुड़े हुए पाइप्स मिले हैं। इसका मतलब पहले वो कहीं हमारे लिए उलझन कर रहे थे। अब हमारी उम्मीद काफ़ी अच्छी बनी हुई है। काम हमने बहुत सहज तरीके से कर दिया है, जिसका प्रमाण ये है कि उसके ऊपर मशीन रात में चला करके हमने ऑगर को वापस खींच लिया है। उसके बाद पाइप के मुंह पर थोड़ी सी अड़चन थी, पिचकन थी। उस पिचकन को निकालने के लिए हमारे पास एक ही साधन है कि उस 1-1.5 मीटर के हिस्से को हम काट कर बाहर करें। तो जैसे केला छीलते हैं वैसी स्ट्रिप्स में पहले गोल काट करके फिर लंबा काट करके छोटी छोटी स्ट्रिप्स पहले नीचे से फिर ऊपर से काट करके हम बाहर निकालने का काम इस समय कर रहे हैं। क्योंकि थोड़ा सा डिफ़िकल्ट काम है इसलिए उसमें समय लग रहा है, लेकिन मुझे उम्मीद है कि अगले 1-1.5 घंटे के अंदर वो काम हमारा कंप्लीट हो जाना चाहिए। वो काम कंप्लीट होने के बाद फिर हम जो नॉर्मल हमारा ड्रिलिंग का काम है वो हम चालू करेंगे।
My colleague Nivriti spoke to Harish Prasad, who is looking into the medical care for the trapped workers. He explains the facilities that are available in the ambulances that have been placed on standby.
8 दिनों से हम लोग यहाँ पर जो है डे नाइट यहाँ पर सेवा दे रहे हैं। इसके साथ मैम हमारे जो एम्बुलेंस है, यहाँ पर 2 टाइप की एम्बुलेंस उपलब्ध है। एक ALS है, हमारी वाली ALS है, और ये BLS है। ये एडवांस थोड़ा इससे है और ये बेसिक लाइफ सपोर्ट है जो।
अच्छा, ये बेसिक है और ये एडवांस्ड है।
जी जी। तो इसमें मैम कुछ चीज़ें आप देख सकते हैं कि जैसे फर्स्ट में आपको दिख रहा है कि एक स्ट्रेचर यहाँ पर पेशेंट के लिए होता है
जी।
इसके साथ साथ एक और हमारे पास स्ट्रेचर होता है जो पोर्टेबल होता है। कभी
इसको थोड़ा दिखाएंगे, ये मतलब ये अच्छा ठीक है, ये वाला स्ट्रेचर है जो आप अंदर से उनको लेके,
ये पोर्टेबल होता
अगर
है, जरूरत पड़ी तो इसको जो है कहीं से भी पेशेंट को इसमें जो है लाया जा सकता है अपनी एम्बुलेंस तक। इसके साथ साथ मैं आपको चीज़ों को दिखाता हूँ कि जो है ये हमारी
ये दूसरा स्ट्रेचर
जी, ये स्ट्रेचर है जिसमें जो है पेशेंट को जो है पोजीशन में लिटा करके उसको जो है ट्रीटमेंट हम यहाँ पर दे सकते हैं। जिसके साथ साथ मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ कि यहाँ पर कुछ मशीनें हमारे पास लगी हुई हैं, जैसे कि ये जो है एक मशीन है कार्डिक पेशेंट के लिए होती है
जी, ये वाली
जी जी डिफ्लोरेटर नाम से।
अच्छा, इससे होता क्या है, बोलते चाहिए थोड़ा सा।
जी मैम, इसमें जैसे ECG का जो काम होता है वही काम इसमें होता है। ये जो मशीन है, इसके साथ एक और हमारे पास मशीन है, मल्टी स्कोप नाम है इसका। इसमें 2 से 3 चीज़ें शो होती है, जैसे कि इसमें BP इसका पेशेंट के वाइटल्स जो होते हैं उनको जो है लिया जाता है। BP हो गया, SpO2 सेचुरेशन हो गया, या पल्स रेट उसका हो गया, ये सारी चीज़ें मॉनिटरिंग ये करता है। कि कुछ हमारे पास मेडिसिन्स इसमें उपलब्ध हैं जो इसमें हमको प्रोवाइड कर देती है। ये हमारे कुछ, जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं कि सांस से संबंधित अगर कोई किसी पेशेंट को आती है तो ये जो यूटोफैलिन डेरिफ
जो उनको जल्दी चाहिए वो सब आपके पास है
जी। इसके लिए सबसे पहले तो मैम जो भी श्रमिक अंदर से आएंगे तो डॉक्टर की निगरानी में उनका रखा जाएगा। उनसे प्रिस्क्राइब होगा कि इनको क्या नीड्स है और उनको क्या देना है। इसके साथ हमारे पास जो और चीज़ें हैं मैम, ये मेडिसिन हमने आपको दिखा दी है। इसके साथ साथ जो है और भी चीज़ें, जैसे कि कुछ हमारे पास जी कॉटन्स हो गया, बैंडेज हो गया, या फ्लूइड्स वगैरह भी हमारे पास उपलब्ध है। अगर किसी को डिहाइड्रेशन ऐसा कुछ होता है जी,
अगर ड्रेसिंग वगैरह करनी पड़ जाए, चोट लगी हो किसी को,
बिल्कुल
तो
बिल्कुल,
ये सारी चीजें दवाइयों के साथ यहाँ मौजूद है।
बिटाडिन वगैरह सारा कुछ इसमें जो है रखा गया है कि उनको जो है, ऐसे भी इसमें होता ही है, नॉर्मली इसमें रखा जाता है। हमारा जो है 24 आवर्स की हमारी सर्विस होती है, तो उसकी ये चीज़ें हमें रखनी होती है।
इसको एडवांस्ड इसलिए बोल रहे हैं क्योंकि इसमें ऑक्सीजन है और ये सारे इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स अलग से लगे हुए हैं।
जी बिल्कुल।
अच्छा, ये बताइए हरीश जी, आप ये सब तो ठीक है, लेकिन आप यहाँ पे 8 दिन से हैं और 9 दिन से भी हो सकते हैं, और दिन रात यहीं पे ही हैं।
हाँ जी बिल्कुल मैम, ये आप हमारा देख सकते हैं कि इसमें हमारे पास कुछ अपने कपड़े वपड़े हमने रखे हुए हैं, जिसमें हम रातों दिन इसी में अभी जो है समय अपना दे रहे हैं। इसके साथ में हमारे पास कुछ और भी इक्विपमेंट्स हैं इसमें, जैसे कि जो है ये ऑटोक्लेव, ये एक हमारे पास जो ये होता है एम्बू बैग। एम्बू बैग होता है ये, जैसे कि ऑक्सीजन ब्रीथिंग के लिए होता है, ऑक्सीजन भी उससे जो है दिया जा सकता है पेशेंट को। इन द केस अगर ये चीज़ नहीं काम करती है तो फिर ये भी इसमें जो है रखा गया है। इसके साथ में हमारे और भी कुछ इक्विपमेंट्स इसमें, जैसे कि ये आप देख सकते हैं RBS के लिए होता है,
इंजेक्शन सिरिंजेस।
हाँ, सिरिंजेस
थोड़ा आगे आपको तकलीफ तो होगी आने में आगे राहुल, लेकिन थोड़ा अगर आप आगे आके दिखा सकते हैं तो ये देखें,
ये सिरेंजेस हैं और ये हमारा ग्लूकोमीटर है। अगर जो है किसी का शुगर लेवल अप है डाउन है तो वो भी हम जो है यहाँ पर उनका चेक करके
इमीडिएटली
ट्रीटमेंट दे सकते हैं। जी जी जी। इसके साथ में और भी कुछ चीज़ें होंगी हमारे पास, जैसे कि स्टेथोस्कोप है, माइक्रोपोर है, ग्लव्स हैं हमारे हैं, या एस्प्रिन टैबलेट भी हमारे पास अवेलेबल है।
सारी बेसिक चीज़ें तो मौजूद हैं ही, लेकिन एडवांस चीज़ें भी मौजूद हैं।
Nivriti Mohan also spoke to the international tunnel expert Arnold Dix, who has been at the site for several days now. He shed light on the reasons behind the delay in the rescue mission.
So right now we have with us Arnold Dix, who is the tunneling expert from Australia, who has been pitched in by the government or the agencies. Who has pitched you in, sir?
It's the government, the federal government, I think.
Okay. What are the difficulties right now that you are finding while rescuing the workers inside?
Well, the difficulty is that the Himalayas are, they've got all their surprises there, and so geologically, technically, from an engineering point of view, scientifically, just when I think I know what's going to happen, something else happens. And so the whole team, especially the Himalayan specialists who are here, we're struggling with all of that. Just the sheer size, the complexity, the dynamics. The mountain's alive. So that's what's really causing us.
What exactly are the geological challenges that you're facing right now?
Well, the first exact geological challenge, it's rocks hitting you on the head, like get really basic. So there's our own protection. There's always the risk that we're going to be injured or killed ourselves as we're doing the rescue. That's everyone who's in there. The mountain's already told us that it's not happy with the first big avalanche, and the risk is that there'll be more, and so we're having to be extra alert and vigilant for any warning signs that another collapse is going to occur. And that, because it's the Himalayas, there's nothing like it. This is as dangerous, as difficult as it gets anywhere on the planet.
You were telling me that it is continuously falling. How many times have you faced obstructions or obstacles while working to dig in or
well, everyone who's working in there, that's all the time. So it's not raining rocks in the sense that when we're in there we're all getting hit on the head, but we've got all sorts of scientific equipment set up there with laser beams and everything all fired around, watching the rock, making sure it's not moving, analysing anything that falls. It's like alive in there, and not just rocks falling, but listening, touching. So, when I go into the tunnel, I actually touch the walls. I feel what the rock is doing. I'm listening to what the rock is saying. Really trying to understand how it's about to move, because I know if it moves very much, that's it for all of us. So, it's you've got to concentrate.
On Thursday, a mob stormed the compound of a major government hospital in Imphal after a Myanmar citizen who had fled the war in his home country was transferred there for treatment. The police used tear gas to disperse the crowd, which had gathered after rumours of the patient being a kooky militant surfaced. The police said the man known as Quantum died at the hospital from bullet wounds sustained during the fighting in Myanmar. Following concern and outrage over deepfake videos on the social media, Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar has announced the centre's plan to appoint an officer to address this issue. The centre has said the creation and circulation of deepfakes carry a strong penalty of 1 lakh rupees in fine and 3 years in jail. Additionally, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology intends to create a website where users can report violations of IT rules by social media platforms.
Look, today we had a very longish meeting with all of the important players on the internet, on the Indian internet, the intermediaries. That's how we refer to them, the internet intermediaries, and we have raised the issue of deepfakes with them. As you are aware, the Honorable Prime Minister has raised that issue that deepfakes are deeply disruptive. It can create divisions and all kinds of disruptions in communities and families, and therefore deepfakes are a very, very clear and present danger to the safe and trusted internet. That is our goal and our policy. Way back, I reminded them today, I made a presentation to them and I reminded them that way back from October 2022, the government of India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government, has been alerting them to the threat of misinformation and deep fakes, which are part of misinformation. The intermediaries of today all agreed that the current IT rules and under the IT Act provide for adequate compliance requirements on their part to deal with deep fakes. Even as we speak to a future regulations and a future law, which is certainly required given that our IT Act is 23 years old, it was emphasized to them again, to which they have agreed, that the current law and the current act and the current rules under 31B5 provides for compliance requirements by the platforms on misinformation, patently false information, and deepfakes.
Before OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's 4 days in exile, several staff researchers had warned the board about a powerful artificial intelligence discovery that they say could threaten humanity. Take a look.
There's another twist in the OpenAI saga involving a possible breakthrough in artificial intelligence and a staff letter warning the board about it before CEO Sam Altman's brief firing. That's according to people familiar with the matter, who told Reuters the researchers' letter raised concerns that the discovery could threaten humanity. The sources said this was a key development ahead of Altman's sudden Friday ouster from the company that made the powerful chatbot ChatGPT. Altman was reinstalled late Tuesday after hundreds of employees threatened to quit. Reuters was unable to review the letter, and OpenAI declined to comment on it. According to one of the sources, the project involved is called QStar, and some internally believed progress made on QStar could be a breakthrough in the startup's search for superintelligence, also known as artificial general intelligence. OpenAI defines AGI as AI systems that surpass humans in most economically valuable tasks. Reuters could not independently verify the capabilities of QStar. Altman has previously spoken of concerns over super-intelligent machines that are shared by many computer scientists.
My worst fears are that the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world.
The board had vaguely cited a lack of candor and the need to defend OpenAI's mission to develop AI that benefits humanity in firing Altman. Before the issue of the letter came to light, Cornell University's Tech Policy Institute director Sarah Krebs said the saga will dog the company until more answers are given.
What was sort of the grave misstep, and should we be concerned? Should investors be concerned? Should governments be concerned? Should citizens be concerned? So without a bit more transparency, I do think those will be some unanswered questions that will linger.
Krebs said the new board installed alongside Altman's return as CEO appears to be more aligned with his vision of accelerating the development of AI, while, she says, also ensuring safeguards are in place.
Far-right populist Geert Wilders has won big in the Dutch elections. Wilders is known for a strong stance against immigration, the European Union and Islam. He's now a leading candidate for the Netherlands' next prime minister after a surprise win in the recent elections. However, to take office, he needs to rally support from other parties for a coalition government. His campaign focused on stopping what he termed the asylum tsunami, blaming it for various societal problems like housing shortages and healthcare expenses. He aims to halt refugee asylum and EU labour movement, proposing work visas instead. Wilders also advocates revoking temporary asylum permits for Syrians and deporting criminal offenders after stripping them of Dutch nationality. Wilders' Freedom Party secured 37 seats out of 150, surpassing all expectations. He aims to focus on immigration control. The Netherlands' political structure is expected to moderate his more extreme proposals, as he will need to collaborate with other parties to form a coalition government. Analysts say this outcome is comparable to the Trump movement in the US politics, signaling a significant shift in the country's political landscape.
It's an earthquake. You can call it an earthquake. Nobody expected this result. PVV, which more or less is the radical populist outlier in Dutch politics, becoming the biggest party, Prime Minister's party perhaps even, that was really not expected by anyone. Not even by Geert Wilders, the potential Prime Minister himself. Geert Wilders is a bit like the French Le Pen. Or this is the Trump moment of Dutch politics. Trump becoming the next president again. So this is part of an international trend. It's not an anti-Islam vote. It's not an anti-EU vote. No, it's more a middle finger against the establishment in The Hague. This vote for Geert Wilders is not a mandate for an exit. Not at all. 80% of the Netherlands support the EU. They are against an exit because we are a very international, connected economy. The internal market, single market is very important for the Dutch economy. So I think the common sense in the Netherlands is we are pro-EU.
Dutch protesters gathered against the far-right leader's election win, causing concern for Muslims and the LGBTQ community in the country. The demonstrators, some with rainbow flags and Palestinian flags, marched in opposition to Wilders and his Freedom Party. The protesters say there are almost no rights left for minorities and people from the LGBTQ community. The police intervened to disperse the demonstrators.
Ja, daarom. We kunnen die kant weg. Nou ja, dat dacht ik dus ook al. Zijn er met
In Dublin, a knife attack left 5 people injured, including 3 young children, which triggered riots. The 40-year-old suspect is in the custody of the police, and authorities haven't ruled out any motive yet, including whether it could be terror-related. Anti-immigrant protesters clashed with the police, setting fires and looting.
Rioting broke out in Dublin on Thursday after a knife attack. Anti-immigrant protesters clashed with riot police, burned down cars and buses, and looted shops. That's after a 40-year-old man went on a stabbing spree in the early afternoon that injured 5 people. among them 3 young children, including a 5-year-old girl who had serious injuries. The 40-year-old man remains in custody, though police would not comment on his nationality. The government says all lines of inquiry related to the attack remained open, contradicting a senior officer who earlier told reporters it wasn't terror-related. Later on Thursday, groups of anti-immigration protesters broke through the police barrier at the scene. Some shouted, "Get them out," and the riot spiraled out of control. Hundreds of officers had to be deployed to restore public order. Public transport was suspended, and patients advised not to travel to a nearby maternity hospital unless absolutely necessary. Ireland's Justice Minister said thugs and criminals were using the knife attack to sow division. Such rioting is almost unprecedented in Dublin. There are no far-right parties or politicians elected to parliament, but small anti-immigrant protests have grown in the last year. Net migration to Ireland surged to its highest levels on record last year, after the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war.
A woman filed a court complaint against New York Mayor Eric Adams, accusing him of sexual assault and other offenses dating back to 1993 when they worked together for the city. Adams' spokesperson has denied the claim, saying the mayor does not know the accuser and does not recall meeting her. The accusation is part of a series of complaints filed this week under New York State's Adult Survivors Act, just before the expiration of a special 1-year window for such complaints. The court has summoned Adams, a former police officer, and said the complaint lacks specific details, but it mentions charges of sexual assault, battery, employment discrimination based on gender, retaliation, hostile work environment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The summons seeks at least $5 million in damages and names the City of New York, the New York Police Department, and others as defendants. Hip-hop giant Sean Combs, who is known as Diddy, now faces the second sexual misconduct lawsuit in a week. He's been accused of drugging and sexually assaulting a student in New York in 1991.
Hip-hop mogul Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, has been sued again for sexual misconduct, the second such lawsuit in the past week. Thursday's filing in a New York court alleges that Combs drugged and sexually assaulted a university student in 1991. The complaint comes ahead of the expiry of a special 1-year window under the New York State's Adult Survivors Act, which allows lawsuits to be filed even if the statute of limitations have run out. Combs' accuser, Joy Dickerson-Neal, says she was visiting New York when the alleged incident happened. The 54-year-old is also accused of videotaping the alleged crime and distributing the video to others in the music industry. Lawyers for Dickerson-Neal said the assault and public exposure of it had caused her feelings of humiliation, embarrassment, and violation. She's seeking unspecified compensatory damages for mental and emotional injury, distress, pain and suffering, and injury to her reputation, according to the lawsuit. Combs' spokesperson said Dickerson-Neal's story is, quote, made up and not credible, and purely a money grab and nothing more. The complaint against Combs comes a week after he settled a lawsuit by his former girlfriend, R&B vocalist Cassandra Ventura. Ventura, who performs under the stage name Cassie, accused Combs of physical abuse, sexual slavery, and rape. Combs is the founder of Bad Boy Records and is one of the most influential producers and executives in hip-hop.
Oscar-winning actor Jamie Foxx is being sued for allegedly groping a woman at a Manhattan rooftop bar in 2015. A lawsuit filed in New York on Wednesday identifies the plaintiff only as Jane Doe. It says the sexual assault occurred after she and a friend approached the film star and had their pictures taken with him.
Oscar-winning actor Jamie Foxx is being sued for allegedly groping a woman at a Manhattan rooftop bar in 2015. A lawsuit filed in New York on Wednesday identifies the plaintiff only as Jane Doe. It says the sexual assault occurred after she and a friend approached the film star and had their pictures taken with him. Fox's representatives did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The complaint says Fox began groping the woman and putting his hands under her clothes against her will, until her friend found the two of them and interrupted the encounter. Jane Doe is seeking unspecified damages. Fox is best known for his Academy Award-winning portrayal of singer Ray Charles in the 2004 film Ray. The actor is one of the latest high-profile celebrities accused of sexual wrongdoing in a recent series of lawsuits filed under the Adult Survivors Act. The New York state law allows victims of sexual abuse to sue alleged abusers even if the statutes of limitations have run out. The deadline for the special one-year window for such complaints expires at the end of this month.
Reports reveal that King Charles might be profiting from the deaths of citizens in northwest England. The Duchy of Lancaster, overseen by his estate, has allegedly gained millions from assets left by people who passed away without a will or known relatives. Although the Duchy claims these funds go to charities, leaked documents suggest otherwise. It's been suggested that the money is used to upgrade properties owned by the King, generating profits for the royal estate. A leaked document called SA9 reportedly authorized officials at the King's estate to utilize funds from unclaimed estates on various profit-generating ventures. These include upgrades to townhouses, holiday rentals, countryside cottages, agricultural structures, and even a former petrol station. Additionally, the funds were used allegedly for barns utilized in Yorkshire for pheasant and partridge hunting. Reports found several deceased individuals whose assets went to the King's estate, contrasting their modest lifestyles with lavish properties funded by their assets. The news has sparked outrage amongst friends of the deceased, labelling the practice as disgusting and unethical. The Duchy of Lancaster and Buckingham Palace have not commented on the issue. Yemen is facing a severe water crisis as the country grapples with drought. To manage, people are using old but reliable ways to collect rainwater. They're building dams, ponds and reservoirs using traditional methods passed down generations. For centuries, Yemenis have used these techniques to deal with the dry weather, capturing rainwater effectively. Now, local communities and non-governmental organizations are teaming up to implement projects that help rural Yemenis access clean water for their daily needs. It's a joint effort to tackle the challenges posed by the crisis in the country.
Yemen is one of the world's most water-stressed countries. For 10-year-old Ali Al-Kataimi, that means riding a donkey to fetch well water every day. This area has been hit hard by climate change-induced drought. But to cope, people in some parts of the country are making use of traditional techniques to capture and store water. Those methods have helped people with the region's arid climate for centuries. In this district, about 25 miles west of the capital, a local resident says 10,000 people rely on this dam, as well as livestock. A water supply point in town has really helped, according to this resident. He says it's eased the burden on everyone in the community. They're often tired from fetching water. According to the United Nations, about 14.5 million people in Yemen do not have access to safe drinking water and reliable sanitation. There are ponds and reservoirs scattered around the country, and others being built, like this cistern. It's under construction thanks to help from an NGO. The project manager says people cannot rely on groundwater in the mountainous region, so they need to harvest rainwater from seasonal rains instead. This local community leader describes it as a gift that will keep water drinkable. But climate change and rapid population growth are always looming in the background, putting pressure on already limited resources.
Peru's latest government inventory has revealed a staggering 56% loss of its tropical glaciers in the past 6 years due to climate change. These glaciers, accounting for 68% of the world's tropical glaciers, are rapidly melting, forming new mountain lagoons that pose a flooding risk. The National Institute of Research Mountains and Glaciers and Ecosystems highlighted this concerning trend using satellite imagery up to 2020. The report shows a reduction from 2,400 square kilometers of ice and snow in 1962 to a mere 1,050 square kilometers, covering a little over 2,000 glaciers in Peru.
Se ha reducido a 1.050 kilómetros cuadrados las áreas glaciares en las 18 cordilleras del país. Eso significa que hemos perdido en este periodo de 58 años un 56% de áreas glaciares. 4 cordilleras que han perdido de manera muy rápida, casi alrededor de los 80-90% o más del 90% de sus áreas glaciares, como el caso de la cordillera Chila.
And with that, it's a wrap on the show. Thanks so much for watching.